illustrates the server, the feet, and the legs. We already have said that about 12% of the people in the church, when they've done surveys, have the spiritual gift of prophecy. 17% of the people in the church have the spiritual gift of serving. So already about 29% have been taken care of in these first 2 weeks. But as you think about the gift of serving, I believe there are a lot of people who that may not be their main motivational gift, but it is a secondary gift. And even those who have the secondary gift of serving, the qualities or characteristics of a server are very evident to see in your life. But as we think about a composite of the gift of service, the word minister or serve literally means through dust. That they would stir up dust going to meet the needs of other people or going to do the Lord's work. Someone, Bill Gothard, said that serving is demonstrating love by meeting practical needs. I've heard another picture of serving is doing exactly what needs to be done when you're asked to do it. But I also have seen this picture of serving is doing exactly what needs to be done before you're even asked to do it. But as we think about servers, I believe there are 3 different degrees of serving. Now, some spiritual gifts inventories will say there are 9 spiritual gifts, and they'll use one as a hostess or hospitality as a spiritual gift. I believe that's a form of serving. I wouldn't put it out there as a separate gift. There are 3 different ways that the Bible shows us someone might have this gift. First of all, is someone who is a spokesman. Think of the word herald, Herald. Do you know that Moses, and a lot of people don't realize it if you don't read a lot in Exodus and on, but Moses said he had a speech impediment. He told the Lord, said, Lord, I can't go get the Israelites out. You know I don't speak well. So see, some of you may say, well, I can't ever do anything in the church. I couldn't ever be a preacher. I don't speak well. I couldn't be a teacher or leader. Well, God may just give you a herald. And you know who Moses' herald was, his spokesman? His brother Aaron. The Lord said, you got a brother who can speak. I'll bring him in. I'll tell you what to say. You tell your brother, and he can be the one who can make the presentation then. You know, the President of the United States, if he can read, he's a pretty good speaker, isn't he? None of them write their own speeches. Somebody else does it for them. And I used to think now, boy, they are so good. He doesn't even go up there with notes, but he's got a teleprompter now right there in front of him. So that's not like it was in the old days, but someone writes their speeches for them. And so even he has a PR guy, press man, and he'll do his press conferences, and he will speak for the president. There are some of the presidents I remember. Most of them do pretty good at their speeches, but some just weren't that great at it. But they always have somebody who can do that for them. So Moses wasn't even a good speaker. When he was about to go off the scene, by that time Joshua had become Moses' minister. There's a second picture. Helper. Just someone who helps somebody. Joshua was one who was a fighter and a warrior. But he was a special aid to Moses. I tell you one thing, he'd be like a bouncer for Moses. I'd love to have had a Joshua by my side when I have to go out and tell the 2 million plus Israelites something they didn't want to hear. And, you know, there were times they wanted to stone Moses, wanted to kill him, and didn't like it. Boy, it was always nice to have a Joshua by your side. But he was a helper. And we see that picture also in Timothy in the Bible. And then John Mark also was a special helper to Paul at one time. And we'll get to this tonight, but here's one thing that servers have to be careful about. When they get out of the Spirit, they become quitters. And John Mark was with Paul and Barnabas, and he was their helper. He was a server who went along with them, but then he got out there on a mission trip and things got kind of tough. They were ministering to some people John Mark didn't particularly care for, and he quit. And because of that, a server quitting, it caused a rift between 2 ministers, between Paul and Barnabas, that the next time Barnabas, some believe that was either his nephew or his cousin, was Mark. Barnabas wanted to take him again. Paul said, no, not this time. I don't want him going out with us again. And he quits. So that's when Paul took Silas, and then Timothy eventually became one of their special helpers. And you only have to read the letters of Paul, and he will mention some in there who I believe were those who had the gift of serving, who were either heralds or helpers, in how they assisted Paul. And then there's another picture. And you see this more in ladies, but it's a hostess. You think about that gift of hospitality. You know, there are a couple of times the word constrained is used in the Bible. And one of those is with the Shunammite woman, lived in Shunem. And Elisha would come through Shunem. And this lady, it said one time that as Elisha and his helper Gehazi were coming through there, that it said she wanted them to have a meal at their home. Elisha didn't really want to stop, but she constrained them. But special exhortation to servers. Be kindly affectioned. That's because you've got to be sensitive. You've got to have the right attitude, because you need to be responsive where service needs to be done, and do it in a loving and caring way with brotherly love or sisterly love. Servers are people who almost treat you like, well, they do. They treat you like your family. They treat you like you're their brother or sister, and that's supposed to be a quality they need to work on, to be loyal and cooperative, and then honoring one another. In other words, they honor others' authority. They've got to learn to be respectful and work at it, because usually a server is not necessarily the person in charge. They listen to someone who's in charge and help them to fulfill a need. The expectation that a server needs to exercise the most is control. Paul had to tell Timothy sometimes, son, be careful, take care of yourself physically, because servers get so involved in things, they tend to go without the proper amount of rest, and sometimes they're serving food and they forget to eat. They get so into what they're doing. And so control, to stay in control of their schedule and under the control of someone else, gives the server protection of the management of his time. Now very quickly, I want to go through the 5 characteristics that I see in this passage of one with the gift of serving. Number one, they find opportunities to assist. Paul says, he could say, I've got a lot of good helpers. Tychicus, he could go through and name all these who had helped him through the years. But he says, I don't have anybody like-minded. I don't have anybody else like Timothy who will naturally care for you. And so they find opportunities to assist. Servers are alert to practical needs. Important needs that sometimes seem insignificant to others will catch the eye of the server. And it's usually physical. They know it brings encouragement and strength to others. But anyway, find opportunities to assist. Number 2, to free others to achieve. For all seek their own, verse 21, not the things which are Jesus Christ. But a server in the Spirit knows that there are some who can speak the word and preach the word and do things like that. The server doesn't necessarily get motivated to do that. They don't even want to be up in front of people. But they want to help the person who gets up in front of people to be able to achieve. They want to assist them to produce. Their joy is not in just initiating tasks, but knowing that they're bringing peace of mind to another person, which allows them to be more productive and to succeed. Now, they find opportunities to assist, free others to achieve. Number 3, they fulfill obligations to the end. A server does have to be careful of this, but they tend to be available and accepting to all proposals. A server has difficulty in saying no, because you see, as a server meets one need and they're good at it, then someone else wants to ask them to do that too for a similar thing. And here's what I would say. If you've got a server in some area of ministry in this church, don't abuse them. If they've got a heart for the mommy-to-mommy ministry, let them do that to the glory of God. Don't expect them to do everything else in the church. They have a heart for being on the hostess committee of the church and helping out with fellowships. Don't expect them to come and do everything else, a class Sunday school party. You ought to have a server within your class or department